Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Subjective Perspective Show, episode 154, November 27th, 2021. We are honored to feature an incredible author, entrepreneur, business minded individual who I had the opportunity to work with a couple years back. And we're going to get into, I believe, thorough understanding as to what drives an individual to really be inspired, to follow their heart, to follow those things they call dreams, those visions we see within our thought process of what we know we are able to accomplish, though what others may not see in us. What drives those individuals? Well, getting my copy of TKO to 4.0 out. Got my handy dandy smart gadget here and want to give you a little insight to what I really thought was incredible in what our guest feature of episode 154 of the Subjective Perspective Show on Be Awoke Entertainment is Matthew Hamamjy. And his book titled TKO to 4.0, a fighter's approach to life, school, and overall success by Matthew Hamamjy. And he's an MBA, an individual who at a rather young age acquired several degrees in an avenue which he is putting them to use. And I'm excited and honored to get into this conversation interview with my friend and once student. And I always make the point that I'm a collaborator, somebody who collaborates with those that I have the luck and honor of working with. So I had the good fortune of collaborating with Matthew a couple years back at a wonderful school in Silicon Valley. And he quickly showed why he obviously is doing all of the incredible things that he's doing right now. All the talents, all the knowledge, all the wisdom, and the interest he has in life. And being a lifelong learner. It's something I'm really looking forward to getting into with him. And you may see in the reflection, not sure if you see, we have Lisa TSP. A big shout out to my other half in life, my incredibly brilliant and beautiful wife. Big shout out, Lisa TSP, as she was walking into the scene without willingly knowing it, and she's getting all the audio set up. And I believe we're looking good on our side right now, which very, very excited for this interview and this guest feature. Somebody who I have incredible belief in regarding anything he seeks to accomplish. And this is going to be quite the dynamic and fascinating discussion about to unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we bring you here at Be Awoke Entertainment and the Subjective Perspective Show, Matthew Hamamjy. And as he's entering our Zoom studio here in the Yosemite side of California, which is where we're coming from, hey, there he is. Matthew, can you hear me? How you doing there, my man?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I'm doing great over here. How are you?
Great to see you and great to hear from you. And, you know, we get the opportunity to talk whenever we feel like it. Though we most recently, just a couple weeks ago, had a great conversation. I'm still reeling from the inspiration that you brought forth with the ideas. And I was just introing you, Matthew. So we're recording right now. And this is all part of the interview process here on the Subjective Perspective Show, which I want to make the point to everybody, the holiday episode, the special. So, Matthew, you are the guest feature for episode 154, the holiday special, for those that are celebrating Thanksgiving. A happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there and a great weekend ahead. Matthew, first off, How are you?
I'm doing great. Let me start off by saying I'm honored. I'm honored to be on the episode. I'm honored to be on the Thanksgiving episode, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you. So
Likewise,
here's
likewise, Matthew. 100 million%. I'm gonna go out of frame while I take a sip of my bubbly water here.
awesome.
Not doing any product endorsements at this point, though. Hey, down the road, if anybody's interested, could always go in that direction as well. Hey, Matthew, listen. So with these interviews, we've had now you're 154, 154 episodes going over 8 years. Matthew, this all happened by accident, and anybody who's interested, listen to past episodes. We get into discussions on that. It's pretty cool. But we start out the interviews with basic questions, and then we'll really get a little more nuanced into your book. And I've got the opportunity to read it, and I just want to thank you for the shout out as well. That felt really cool to see my name there. That was awesome. And the book is incredible. So we're going to get into that in depth. And then we bring it down to simple questions again. So when I ask you these simple questions, I know some of the basic questions, but for those that are tuning in from around the world, they're looking, to understand who this author is, who this entrepreneur is, who this business-minded individual is. They get a full-rounded sense, just sort of like how you talked about the holistic, I think in the conclusion of your book, right? You get into the holistic self and really training that whole person. So this goes into that really. So I want to ask you, for those that are, first time getting to know you here on the show, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, great question. So I think where you're born and raised plays a huge factor in developing you. I was lucky. I was born and raised in San Jose, California, right here in the Silicon
Beautiful.
Valley in the Bay Area. I'm a son of two immigrants. So my parents, probably the more interesting part of this is they were both born and raised in the Middle East. So for my father is from Beirut, Lebanon, and my mother is from Syria, from Aleppo, Syria. So I'm a son of two immigrants whose perspectives have definitely played a solid part, forming who I was and who I grew up as and who I became as a person.
So, I just want to give a big shout out to your family to have done such a great job in molding you, I would say. Just my hat's off. I know how much work goes into raising children, and you can tell that they put a lot of their best into you. So I just want to give a shout out to your family and for all those families out there that are working hard and really working to turn dreams into reality. So San Jose, California. uh, I'm biased here. I love San Jose, Matthew. Okay, I'm somebody who, from the Northeast, from the New York area, made my way about over a decade ago with Lisa TSP, who you know well, and we settled in the Central Coast area. So San Jose is like a second home. It's like home. It's a place that is just beautiful. Now, for those that are listening in and who have never been to San Jose, first in proximity to like Los Angeles and San Francisco, where is San Jose? And what's San Jose like?
Yeah, San Jose's in California. So I always, when I travel, I always tell people Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco first. If they don't get that, then I say Hollywood, and once they hear one of those two, they usually get it. But San Jose is definitely closer to San Francisco. We're about an hour and a half south of San Francisco, and it's a very again in my biased view, it's a very intellectual area. You have a lot of what they're well known for is technology. You have a lot of the technology companies that are based here or started here. This is where Google was started, Facebook, Instagram, and the list just goes, so on. It's called Silicon Valley for a reason. So growing up, I was lucky to get to know and get to be around all these people who are very cerebral. So you get the sense that when a lot of people are talking, they don't just talk to talk. They definitely are well thought out in the things they say. Um, and life's just kind of pretty fast paced down here. It's slow, but definitely fast paced. I noticed that when I travel and go down to especially like the Midwest and other parts of this country, um, things kind of slow down, which is really nice and it's relaxing. Um, but I mean, San Jose is definitely not that feel.
San Jose has, I think, the largest population in the Bay Area. I think there's about 1 million people there. And like you said, it's buzzing. People are cruising all around, so much to do. And, I asked that because it's a nice understanding to get to know more about who Matthew Hamamjy is. MBA as well. To add that to your title is just incredible because you are at an age which some may still be working towards that master's or beginning it. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I just turned 22 a couple months ago, and still fairly young. I don't deny it. I actually welcome it. Um, but I don't know. I think a lot of people use age as a hurdle to get over. But I found that once you talk to people and once you're able to conduct yourself as an adult, um, people don't really care about your age all that much.
Hey, Matthew, uh, I had introed you and I mentioned that, you were a student of mine, more of a colleague, as I collaborate with all my students. And I try to bring about that colleague symbiotic relationship where everybody's working together and synergizing and working with one another. I
I'll
immediately
just I'll
saw
add
that in you, immediately saw that in you.
absolutely, and you know me very well. I'll say this. I wanted to add. I'm definitely still a kid at heart. I think
Likewise. Oh,
I,
Matthew, yeah, it's good to stay a kid at heart. I believe in many regards. It keeps you, I think, as Steve Jobs would say, keeps you hungry and, as he would say, foolish. And I think it was in his Stanford commencement address. He finalizes closing out, wishing the students to stay foolish and stay hungry. I believe, and I apologize. Oh
sounds
gosh.
sounds about right.
And I was paraphrasing, so I may be totally off everybody. So please throw it in the comments if you get the actual comment from Steve Jobs to the students. Matthew, now it's just incredible, this book. So at 22, you're accomplishing your master's degree, already accomplished a bachelor's degree, wrote a book here. And I want to actually read a piece, if I could, really
Yeah,
quickly,
please.
because I want to just give everybody the understanding that, this really is an experiential guide. It's a lesson that could be learned through your life, through the stories that you've taken in, through that you've researched along your journey as well. And I just want to make the point that the book is brilliant. It's an incredible book. Everybody has to get this book. TKA to 4.0, a student's, and I apologize, a fighter's approach to life, school, and overall success. And I just want to make that point for everybody that's watching this or listening to this on any of the podcast platforms that we're on. Get this book. And throughout the interview, we'll get into where they can get the book and all that good stuff. But the table of contents, I think, first is just great because straightforward and gives you a sense of what's to come, starting with composure. I think composure is important.
Oh,
Composure is probably one of the most important assets that an individual has as a skill in those difficult times. And I just cut you off. Matthew, what is it about composure that becomes the first chapter in this book?
yeah. There's a lot of lessons that I was compiling, and I noticed that composure is, in my opinion, one of the ones that's most kind of glanced over. And I think it's one of the ones that the youth of this generation, high school and college age people should learn and should know. So I wanted to make that first, right as you open the book, you'll learn a lesson on composure. And it's one I learned. I'm a big believer in seeing what works in different fields and being able to apply them in the area of your life that you want success in, right? So TKO to 4.0, the book, it was written by taking a lot of the lessons I've learned from the athletic part of my life through, wrestling, jujitsu, boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, and from all those sports and all the coaches and all the fighters I was, lucky to be around, those lessons and how I was able to apply them in school. And I realized that one of the biggest ones that made a difference in my academic journey was composure. I've had and I talk about this in the book, I've had so many classmates of mine that, I'll go study with them, coming up to a test, coming up to a quiz. We'll prepare for a speech together, but especially on the tests. A week leading up to this test, a big midterm, big final, I'll study with them and I'm turning to them, asking questions. But when it comes time to take the test, they underperform and I outperform them. And this happened a couple of times and I never really understood it.
And then I see this on page 13, not to interject, but just let me make this point. I think it's the second paragraph. You make the point. If someone is relaxed and knows their material, even if they may not be as good as their peers, they can appear to know better. Vice versa, the person coming after them may have extremely great material, but just because they are nervous or anxious and are freezing up or fumbling over their words, they do not look like they know it and cannot communicate their knowledge of the material well. Exactly what you're saying was what I was actually going to. It's interesting. Yeah, it's sort of like Jedi mind tricks.
And it gets deeper, right? Because a lot of people don't understand, you're not faking it till you make it, right? A lot of people say that. I think the root, and I talk about this too in the book, the root of where a person's composure and their ability to relax and be calm, where does that come from, right? A lot of people don't know where that comes from. And in my opinion, I think that comes from preparation. You should have confidence in your skills because you've done the necessary work. You put in the work, you prepared, you studied, you know the material. So when it comes time to take the test, you should be confident. You should be like, hey, I've done what I need to do. When you compete in wrestling, they say that the matches are won in the practice room. So if you go to a tournament, there's not much you can do to become better, in those, 6, 12, whatever, the 24 hours you're at that tournament. No, all the work that you needed to do to get that done should have been done in the months leading up to it. So when it's time to perform, you should just be worried about performing.
That's right. And like you said, that practice is the major component, and experience, right? The more somebody has that ability to be in a situation, which takes time for the most part, because it's hard to have 1,000 experiences in like a 2-year, time span. It usually takes about 20 years to gain wisdom, or what that grandiose wisdom that one would say, okay, they have a solid grasp on all different a multitude of perspectives regarding what constitutes this thing they call life. And that's, I believe, one of the most important aspects that you bring up also. And this is on chapter, if I could go to it, consistency, 50, starting on page 50.
Yeah, one of my favorite chapters, to be honest. I was always told that, what's the best way to put it? So consistency comes right after commitment. I put that in a strategic order because I think that commitment's the thing that gets you to, make a goal or start something, right? You're committed to it, you're going to start it. But consistency is the thing that gets you to finish it, right? It gets you to your goal.
That's right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. What was your question?
No, and I was going to make that point. Consistency drives really the thought process into becoming reality. just because one thinks it and believes it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It takes relentless work. It takes a lot of days or weeks or months or years of grinding it out, of feeling like you're not going to make it, you're not going to get there, but you're believing in your vision. And it's like a seed blossoming, right? You know, it's a little seedling, and you water it, you nurture it, and with all of that, you know, the light, the love that comes in, it grows, and it becomes what, you know, some may look at as maybe a redwood, or a beautiful morning glory, or, you know, whatever it may be. It all starts with that belief and that commitment, consistent commitment. And I want to ask you, Matthew, so this is one of the questions that I had for you. You know, what was the process in writing this book? What was the commitment that you took to writing this book, and how long did it take?
Oh man, book was a process. The book was a big process. I started writing like little blog posts. That's how it kind of started. I was like, oh, I'm gonna start writing a little bit. I'll release some, you know, as blog posts or something. Wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with it. But this is a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago is when I started the process. And the idea was, I knew my goals and I knew I was gonna get through school really quickly. This is right after I got my associate's degree in 1 year. And I said, I wanna, while all this information and stuff's fresh in my mind, I wanna start getting it down. Um, but but I realized that that, you know, a lot of them started accumulating. I said, you know what, I wanna string it up and put it in a book. And it was also really nice because, you know, putting it together as a book allowed me the opportunity to reach out to a bunch of people that I wanted to talk to and get their point of view. And the second I reached out to the first person, and the first couple of people especially, once I sent out emails saying, hey, I'm writing a book, can I have, you know, an hour, 2 hours of your time to interview you? Once those first interviews are granted, I kind of felt locked in, because then if I don't write a book, I just lied to these people. So
That's great.
yeah, that commitment I was kind of trapped to. So once I said that, I said, you know, I'm gonna you know, do a little bit each week. I try to get, you know, on average about one interview a week, and a couple pages out. And then and then and then once you know, I went back, I got my master, I finished my master's, I got my degrees, and then I released it as soon as I could. And yeah, that's the story behind that. But I wanted to say one thing about commitment, and sorry, consistency rather. It's always funny that, especially when I talk to younger people, you know, in that high school age, people will ask me so many questions about how I went through school quickly, or about sports, and they'll ask about basically all the other chapters, but they'll like kind of shy away from consistency, because I think most people look for secrets, you know, like, oh, how can I do this without putting the work, right? And
100%.
although, yeah, all these chapters are extremely important, but they all have to work together, and you can't get away with doing something without actually doing it a lot, right? If you
That's
want to get
right.
good at something, you have to put that consistency. It's not one that can be skipped.
Yeah, you know, it's so important, Matthew, that you say that, because one of the basis, I believe, if not the basis of inspiration, I believe inspiration is derived from, obviously, what we sense around us. Could be a song, could be, you know, a sunset, whatever. It could be whatever it may be, painting, whatever it may be. So, internal inspiration, how we see it within ourselves, is a little different. Okay. The external inspiration may be a bit easier to derive inspiration from, because if somebody turns on a good song or a good TV show or read a good book, get into those books, ladies and gentlemen, please, everybody. Turn more of those pages, okay? Get those old school books too. And let me tell you, there's magic in that. The imagination, being able to conjure our own view, perspective, opinion, formulate our own idea of what the writer is saying, intending to say, and how we interpret it. That's the best part of it. But all of that, Matthew, ties into the major thrust, I believe, at what somebody can deduce inspiration from. So they could say, okay, read a good book, heard a good song, but how does somebody do it? And I'll ask you this. I have my own answer, but before I say it, how do you think somebody is able to find internal inspiration when they may not see it on the outside? How do they see it on the inside?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to kind of go a little bit around before I answer this. And I'm going to start by saying it's kind of what this whole podcast is about, right? It's called the subjective perspective. And the reason I bring that up is because each person's perspective on life, it's going to be subjective. It's going to be their own. Each person's, motivations are going to be unique to themselves. So, I have things that I think I need to do and things that motivate me. But when I talk to someone else, they're not necessarily going to share the same goals. That's why you see some people motivated by financial success. Some people are motivated from, different areas, right? Some people could care less about how much they make, they care about the impact they're making. Some people, everyone has different outlooks. So
great points.
Yeah. So I say that because what's going to motivate people, it's going to be situational. So as a coach, I think it's extremely important to realize that. So when you have someone walking into your, high school wrestling team who's on the team because they want to be, check off a sport, and you have another kid who walked in that program because they want to get out of the house, and then you have a third kid who walked in the program because they want to become a state champion, you're going to have to coach them differently. That person who walked in with the goal of becoming a state champion, they might be a little bit more self-motivated to practice, right? But the person who just wanted to get out of the house, you might have to kind of, get them to work towards a goal. And whatever that goal may be, you might have to kind of, motivate them by telling them, hey, you could do this. You're here already. You're spending the time. Let's work towards becoming a champion, right? But then that third kid who's in there only to get your credits, you have to balance it. You have to say, hey, I understand you're taking, a bunch of classes. Is wrestling something you want to pursue? Is whatever sport, right? Is the sport something you're going to want to pursue? And if they say yes, you have to make sure they know, like, hey, well, while you're here, let's optimize our time, right? Let's make sure we're doing it and we're getting the most out of what we're putting in.
So you're essentially differentiating, working with different skill sets or different intentions, and you're able to work with all of those different mindsets or skill sets and train each of those personalities or types of people.
Yeah, you have to. And I told you it was going to be kind of a roundabout way of answering this, but the reason I say that is people can have different ways of going through life. So the way one person moves towards their destination is going to be different from another's. So I talk about this in the book too, and there's there's an MMA and wrestling term. It's called scrambling. So when you wrestle, a lot of people say they're a very funky wrestler, right? They're a scrambly wrestler. So they put themselves in situations that are uncommon, that especially the speed you're going and competing at, they don't know the next move that they have to do, and neither does the person they're competing against. And it causes a scramble. It causes a situation where neither knows the exact move to do, but both know where they want things to go. So, a scramble, in wrestling might be someone's on bottom and they get in this weird position. The person on bottom knows they want to create space and get out. The person on top knows they want to follow their hips and stay behind them, but they don't know exactly how to do that. They don't know if they should stay under the arms, grab a wrist, be holding on the hips or what, right? So it ends up making the people have to do whatever it takes to get to the destination, right? And each scramble is going to be different. And the same thing's true in life. So you put two people in college, their goals, their destination might be the same, but their ways of getting there are going to be different. The one person who has to go and study and spend a bunch of time in the library because they can't be in their room, that's perfectly valid. But the other person might be able to go in their room and get the same amount of studying done. One person might have to, write on note cards. The other person might have to just hear it, right? Visual learners, audible
That's
learners,
right.
and I think we don't realize that. And we always compare ourselves as people, but you got to, in my opinion, I think people need to realize that who they are is a gift, and they have to navigate life based on who they are, playing to their strengths and working on their weaknesses, right? So you shouldn't just play to your strengths, but when you're moving towards a goal and towards a desired outcome, you got to realize who you are and how you're going to get it done, right?
Great point. And that aspect of finding internal inspiration relies on an individual seeing in themselves, from what you're making the point, what their skill set is, what it is that they see within themselves as to what their desired outcome is. What do they want to be doing in 5 years, 10 years? Where do they see themselves, or what direction do they want to go? And internal inspiration is not easy, everybody. So everyone that's checking this out, please realize, when I talk about this, I'm somebody that understands, life is not easy. One thing I love about your book, Matthew, is you have all these cool quotes. Mark Twain, Pete Drucker, which thought that was cool to see in there. A lot of different. I think Thomas Hamamjy, would that be your dad?
Yeah, that's my brother. That's my brother.
That's your brother. That's your brother. Big shout out to brother. Is that older brother or younger brother?
4 years older, and I put him in there because I'll be honest, my first coach was definitely my brother. And in terms of wrestling, and in terms of a lot of sports I played, I grew up with a brother who was 4 years older than me, who I copied. He played water polo, I played water polo. He wrestled, I wrestled. I followed him around. So a lot of so I was lucky because I had a coach who was 4 years ahead of me. So each time I was doing something, I got those 4 extra years experience, and it was really nice, and it led to a lot of wisdom being shared with me without me having to go through all the mistakes, which is a gift sometimes.
I also like to. I have a quote by Thomas here, if I could get to this rather quickly, and I apologize that I am being annoying.
There's a couple. I think he has about 3 quotes in the book, or a couple, because
there was one that was great. And of course, I'm scrolling. Oh, here it is. Page 98. The view never changes for the person in second place.
Oh yeah, it's one of his favorites. So what that means, again, I'm sure most people get it, but what that means is, if you're in second place, you're always going to be looking at the butt of the first place person, right? If you're in a race, you're going to be looking at the rear, right? And that's, if you're doing a cross country race or a big outdoorsy race, that's not a great view. And he always used to say that, like, if you put that extra work to get in first place, now you're going to get to see nature. You're going to get to see the whole world. You're going to get to enjoy the view. But if you're
that's great,
you're just going to be looking at that.
That's great. And it goes into, if I could make the point, actually, what you write. After the quote by older brother Thomas, you state, in a race, you are always going to be looking at the winner crossing the finish line if you are in second place. But if you are number one, then you are out there enjoying the view of crossing that finish line. No matter where you are, not only do you have to be focused on moving forward, but also enjoying it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And let me caveat this, right? Because I had another friend of mine point this out. And they cycle a lot, right? And they were gutsy enough to call me out on it. They said, listen, I competed a lot. And I'll tell you this, every time I finished second, third, and so on and so forth, there's not animosity. So this quote is kind of to prove a point and to kind of, prove a point. But that's not to say that if you're second, third, that there's animosity towards the first place person. Once that race is done, everyone wants to share, enjoy the successes together. The point is just the point that was trying to be conveyed is sometimes it's worth it to put in that extra work to get through it and just and be able to enjoy the outcome.
And you said it perfectly, Matthew. This is really to prove a point in regards to what it is to have that relentless work ethic and vision and belief in yourself, saying to yourself, you know what? I want to cross that finish line first. I want to get there first. And if you don't, you be proud of yourself. Wherever you end up, you put your all into it, you be proud of yourself, as you just said. But I knew what you were saying. So please, I want you to understand that I understood the context of where that line comes from and the way you explained it. So well said. And I think it's a really valid point for, think about it. I think about, I watched the great basketball player, number 23 of the Chicago Bulls, of his series that was out, MJ. And, you saw the relentless work ethic in him, and listen, people have different perspectives and views on individuals who see that within themselves. That could come off as somebody who's arrogant or cavalier, maybe, or something in that regard. Though for individuals who are on that journey and see what's going on, understand, as I put it, that context as to what you said, understand exactly what that's about. And that's a very, very strong, good quality to have, somebody who sees themselves in that regard. And I did not mean to steal the mic for that long. I apologize, brother.
No, absolutely. I love it. I was just going to add on to that. I was going to say that I'm a firm believer, and this book's for high school and college age kids, right? So we got to keep in mind the audience. Although it applies to all people and all people can take value of it, when I was writing this, I wanted to encourage and to expose people to the idea that they have to have that self-motivation. You have to have that drive, because when they go and are working towards the outcome that they desire, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be uncomfortable situation. There's going to be tension, right? There's going to be difficult things they have to push past. But the people need to understand that what they want to go do is worth pushing through that. And it's a simple concept, but it's
not easy.
Yeah. It's not easy. And I've not easy. And I think,
but the more people hear it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
Not to saturate everybody's thought process. Oh, it's so easy. But when they can hear a story based upon, such as TKO to 4.0, and they see these stories play out, they hear these stories, they're learning about these ideas that you took in, that strengthens somebody's self-assessment and the way an individual can see themselves, because they may say, oh, okay, that's how this scenario went down. And we'll talk about a couple of cool pieces. The sign of the waves. I apologize. And I may have just mispronounced it. I have it saved here. Ken DeLorean.
Sorry, one more thing before we move on is people like value comfort so much. And one thing I say, and one thing I really believe in, is that most people are willing to trade what they want most for like short-term happiness, for what they want right now, right? And what they might want most would be the outcome of winning a race or doing something, right? But there's sacrifices that are going to need to be made. So the people who are so used to comfort and so afraid of going through those tough times what they're gonna do is they're gonna, when it comes time to be on a diet, preparing for that event, they're gonna, eat the things that they shouldn't, like the donut or the ice cream. When it comes time to put the practice in, past the point of, getting, being sore, they're gonna take the day off. They're not gonna, go in the ice bath to recover because it's cold, They're not gonna do the necessary things, right? And it's so easy to quit. And it's what people want right now, a lot of times it's gonna be to quit. But a lot of people live a life where they're not where they want to be because they're not willing to go through the things that they need to go through, And
It's a
when
great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just cut you off. I'm going to throw the mic right back to you, but that's a great point. In order to get something out of life, you have to put something into it. Like I said, that seedling, you're watering that seed and it breaks through that ground and it could become a massive redwood or whatever it may be, a little daisy or whatever it is. And that becomes the basis, going back to internal inspiration, seeing that in you, seeing that there may not be anything big. You have your whole life is going to be a massive sequoia or redwood, but it starts with that seed. It starts with that little thought process, believing constantly, consistently, with, like you make the point, saying to yourself, you got this, you can do this, even when you may not believe it. You keep on taking that next step forward, and before you know it, you're in a place where you're like, wait, I could sort of see a little more clearer now. Things are a little, wow, look at this. Matthew, so listen, I got to ask you, going back to your point you're making, sort of regarding how, we become, successful in essence. You're a fighter as well. And that's what this is, the fighter's approach. And I want to just quickly, if I could, go back to my handy dandy smart gadget. Is it the sine wave of life?
Yeah, so you're talking
Yeah,
about
explain what this is. And I'm looking at some of my paperwork here. Ken DeLeon, please explain.
Let me tell you that story first, because that's one of the fun stories in here.
Cool.
And I don't go into all this detail.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I'm gonna kind of introduce myself a little bit because I don't know what the viewer knows, but I got 3 degrees in 3 years. I got my associate's degree in 1 year, bachelor's degree in 1 year, master's degree in 1 year, graduating magna cum laude, was a 2-sport collegiate athlete, worked my way through college. So that came with it a lot of difficult situations that I had to overcome, right? And one of them, with those goals, with those goals that I wanted to achieve and end up achieving, was making sure I had the course load and had the classes that I could take and the times that I could take them, and I was able to graduate on the track I wanted to, and I was able to navigate this and prepare for this pretty well. But there was one course that gave me a really hard time because it was only offered at a certain time. It was actually for my bachelor's degree at Menlo, and it was only offered at a certain time. I couldn't make that time. I talked to the administration. I said, "Hey, can we, move the whole class? Can we move the times for it?" And they go, "No, we can't do that." I'm looking at my other options. Can I get the class transferred in? I can, but no one really offers it. That wasn't a feasible option. Can I get the class, can I get it waived? Can I, pivot degrees? What can I do, right? It was this big mess, right? Anyways, after, working really hard at this, there was a couple of options, right? And the option that was kept getting recommended was, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to take an extra semester, and you're going to have to, take extra, you're going to have to graduate, after you wanted to, right? And not graduate as accelerated. I would still graduate, plenty before time, plenty, quicker than most people. I would have to do one more semester, and that was not something I wanted to do, right? So I kept searching for other options, and I was able to uncover this option that was it's called different schools call it different things. I think it was called an IDR, like this option for the professor and student to teach a one-on-one class. It was only offered in extreme situations.
Independent study type of course.
Yeah, is that ISC? Yeah, it's an acronym, right? Independent study course, something like that, right? Or, it's really inconvenient. The school doesn't like to do it because you're getting a professor spending time with one student. So it's not the ideal situation. It's the ideal for the student, but not so much for the professor and the faculty and then this, administration. Anyways, I uncover that's an opportunity. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I go to the teacher who's teaching the course. I say, hey, can you teach this class? And their answer is, no, I'm too busy. I can't take on another that. So I'm back where I started, right? And I'm frustrated now, but I know that's an option. So I'm like, oh, who else can teach this course? I look at other teachers. I look at past and present teachers that teach that course. And I find this guy named Ken DeLeon. And everyone has such good things to say about him. Every time I bring up the course or the guy's name, people like light up. Anyone who's heard of him and knows him, they say really good things about him. And his story, I guess, yeah, I'm allowed to say it. He said it was okay and it's in the book. His story, he had quite the interesting life, but yeah, there's some things I won't say that are in there, but towards the tail end, one thing that got him into teaching was he's this big, successful real estate person. He runs like he used to run, I don't know where he's at now, but he used to run one of the number one real estate teams in the nation. He has this huge brokerage. They're one of the top teams and one of the top realtors in like Atherton, Palo Alto, Los Altos, Woodside, some of the most expensive parts of the nation and of the world. Anyways, he fell sick and he was put on basically bed rest from my understanding. So he went and taught a college course at Menlo College. Thankfully, he made a recovery, went back to work, never taught it, didn't teach again, right? He's a very busy person. So I find all this out and I'm like, oh, it's a bummer. I would have loved to have him. He's a very interesting person to learn from. I had not met him at the time, right? So I reach out to him. I send like a email, a call, or I try to reach out to him a couple of ways, very respectfully, get a lot of no's. I'm sorry, sir, I don't know how you got in contact with me. No, thank you. I couldn't get past, his
busy schedule, a lot going on. I know how it goes. That's what happens when I reach out for guests. When I had to reach out to you, it took me a while to reach out to you to finally get in touch with you. So no, but that's happened to me, Matthew. It's taken me several years to get certain guests because they're busy. So I totally understand. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. So I was in a situation where I had to make it, appealing for him, right? Because I respected the guy a lot. And after finding his stuff about him out, I was like, I want to learn from this guy. So I went and, I got it all cleared from, I was, walking. Oh, this is the fun part of the story. I was walking through the quad, like the big open grass area of the school, walking like to the cafeteria or something. And the president of the college walks by me. Really nice guy. I can't say enough good things about Menlo College. But he knew my name and he goes, hey, Matthew, how are you doing? How's your day going? Everything going all right? So I turn, I recognize him. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I say, I said something along the lines of, I'm doing great, just trying to figure this thing out. I'm trying to get class, approved and all that. And he goes, oh, what class is it? So I tell him, I'm trying to get, this class, a way to graduate early with this class. And I bring up Ken DeLeon, right? That's the professor's name. And he goes, oh, what a great professor. We'd love to have him back. We'll do, we'd love to have him back or whatever, right? So I go, oh, so if I get him approved, he'd let me take his class. And, he's 10 levels above the person who would be handling this, right? So he goes, absolutely.
Wonderful administrators there. I just want to say wonderful leaders there. They're great people.
Yeah, so I absolutely. I ended up, knowing that I had, the administration behind my back, whether or not they really thought I would do it. So I reached back out to Ken DeLeon, again, his work number or whatever number I had. And I said, I got him on the phone and he gave me like 2 minutes. He goes, hey, we talked already. I wish I could, but it just doesn't seem like a good option for me right now. And I was super respectful. I said, would you flatter me? Would you give me 15 minutes of your time? Let me come to your office, next week on a certain day. Give me 15 minutes of your time. I'll come prepared and we'll see if it's a possibility. So he kind of laughs and he goes, okay, whatever, meet me, Monday, whatever, 2:00, whatever the time.
This is great. This is great.
So I had a week to prepare. I got all the stuff as if he said yes. I went to the administration, got all the paperwork, got all the stuff I had to do, got everything. I came to him that on the 15 minutes I had him, and I said, I basically gave him, who I was, that I got my associate's degree in 1 year already, and then I wanted to get my bachelor's by the end of that year as well. And he starts giving me his no's, right? He starts giving me, I don't have the time, I can't drive down to Menlo, I can't do this, I can't do that. Every single thing, every time he said no for a reason, I gave him a solution, right? Well, I'll drive up here, I'll do this, I'll do that. I kept getting the things that were holding us back out of the way until eventually he goes, well, what the heck? Sure, if you don't do all that, I'll do
That's great. Wow, persistence and perseverance. That's what persistence is one of the biggest. And I tell you, we had Steve Caballero on the show, the legendary skateboarder, and he made a point. Persistence and perseverance, I believe, equal, really bring a lot of success about. And that's so cool that you did that, Matthew. So you were able to get that independent study course based on being relentless in that work ethic, in your vision.
And I was lucky. I'll say this too.
And a very good person who was kind enough to say, you know what, I see something in this young man. I want to, give a little of my wisdom to him. And so big hats off to Professor DeLeon out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I find, again, this is an opinion. I think that most people want to help others. They just need to be given a reason, right? They need to know that their time's not being wasted. There's a couple of wrestling coaches I know that I respected a lot. And that's where this kind of concept comes from. I was talking to one of them a few months ago. I was down in Wisconsin, and they run one of the best,
And a little precursor. A lot of people may not realize you've had the opportunity to speak with and train with, I believe, with some of the greatest wrestlers and MMA fighters in the world. And
yeah.
I'll drop a name if I could, or a name or two. I know we mentioned. Take it away. Take it away. I'm sorry.
No worries. I always feel kind of bad, I don't like to take their glory. That's their own. But at 18 years old, I was lucky, having grown up in San Jose, California. I found my way into one of the best MMA gyms in the world, called the American Kickboxing Academy. And that's home of, some of the absolute best MMA fighters in the world. Definitely some of the best coaches.
I know the great Daniel Cormier is one of them.
Absolutely. Daniel Cormier.
An incredible individual, and my hat's off to Mr. Daniel Cormier. And if you ever see this, big shout out to you and all that you do for those kids. And I know he's a wrestling coach, I believe.
Yeah, Daniel.
Amazing.
Yeah, he trained at AKA, from my understanding, his whole career here in San Jose, California. And he started coaching high school wrestling down at Gilroy, which is, an hour, 40 minutes south of San Jose.
Love it. Garlic capital. Great garlic.
One of the best high school wrestling teams in the nation. Really good program. He opened up his own club gym down in Gilroy too. So if anyone has, high school, middle school, young people who want to learn how to wrestle, I know Cormier Academy opened up probably within the last year. So anyone.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's really nice because now all these kids in that area, Gilroy, San Jose, that whole area, have the ability to go train, with Daniel Cormier and everyone he beat up.
There's a lot of other people that I know you've had the opportunity. I believe Cain Velasquez is one of them. Was Cain Velasquez or someone who trains with this group of individuals over there in San Jose?
Yeah, I don't know Cain super well. He's started coming in here more often. I never really got to know him a great deal. But yeah, he he coaches
one of the great fighters. He's one of the great fighters.
Yeah, I've got to know him a little
heavyweight.
bit.
He was heavyweight, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's a heavyweight. So him and Daniel fought together at the same time, both at the same gym. And from my understanding, and I might be remembering this a little bit wrong, but I laughed when I found out. I think Kane was the title holder, the heavyweight champion of the world.
I remember that.
You know, he's beaten so many big names. Like again, his fight with Brock, where he just destroys them, is very well known. But I think where I was going with this was Kane was champion, and he's friends with Daniel, and Daniel was working his way up in the heavyweight division too. I think he was, either number one challenger or the number two challenger, and he didn't want to take the belt away or fight his friend for the belt. He's like, that's not cool. So Daniel, again, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I remember hearing about this, so I don't know how much of it's true, but he moved down to light heavyweight, and he went and of course became the champion there. And then when later in his career, he went back and got the heavyweight belt as well.
They're amazing. They inspire me. People like that. Oh my goodness, Matthew. And you have Leland on your jacket there.
That's where I coach. That's my high school, Leland High School.
Big shout out to Leland High School out there. A great wrestling coach.
Absolutely.
That is just, I'm so impressed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember, this individual that you're hearing from doing all these things is 22 years young. Okay, now just had a friend turn 91 years young. The great David Amram. We had him on a couple episodes ago, Matthew. So when I say years young, that's just a nice way of putting it. You have accomplished so much, and it's an inspiration for people to see, hey, listen, I can go this direction. And, I want to ask you, so now I always ask, Matthew, and I ask every guest 2 questions, and I'll throw them in there because I have to throw them in there as I ask everybody these questions. Listen, you don't have to go deep into these at all. Okay.
I'm an open book.
And I think when we were talking a couple weeks ago, I may have mentioned that I throw a lot of different questions in there. I know we were on for a couple hours, me and you talking. We can get into we get into convo. So everybody that's tuned in right now, this is episode 154 of the Subjective Perspective Show, guest featuring the incredible author, brilliant entrepreneur, as you're hearing, somebody who makes it happen, Matthew Hamamjy. And Matthew, what a joy this is. Oh, I'm so glad we're doing this, because many years ago when we first crossed paths, I told you, hey, if you ever want to be on the show one day, when you graduate, yada, 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 you're doing stuff, you let me know. I'm very, very happy about this. And I was going to ask the 2 basic questions, which they're not really basic. They're easy to ask. They're a lot to answer if you want to go into them. But I'm going to ask them because I ask of everybody. And it builds a sense. And the reason I do this, Matthew, it builds a sense into, all right, a more holistic, a well-rounded conversation, just to touch a couple different bases. And gosh, been doing this for over 8 years. So episode 154, here we go. Nothing big, but religion. Does that play into your life at all? Matthew, are you a religious person at all? And if so, does it tie in, or a spiritual person, does it tie into the way you see life?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. So I am religious. I was, raised Christian, and it was definitely something that built a lot of the values in me. It's funny. People think that's such a simple question. When I was interviewing a lot of people for my book, I realized the role faith plays is tremendous. And I'm asking a lot of these people, what made them successful? And I'm looking for foundational things. And of course, I kept the book's not religious. The book's meant for anyone who picks it up. Totally.
Yeah. It's like really just experiential stories. And we're going to go back to the De Leon sign, the waves of life sign too. We'll do that in a little bit, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, definitely. But it was funny because when I started talking about these, going back and forth with the people I was talking to, a lot of them didn't realize that, and they thought that it was a religious book, because no matter what religion they were, they resonated with the principles, and they go, oh yeah, that's a religious viewpoint, that's a religious teaching. And it was funny because, three different people from three different religions connected with certain things. And they go, oh yeah, it's a religious thing. You must see this religion. And sometimes they were right and sometimes they were wrong. But it was always funny to see the role that faith plays. A lot of these fighters, I know Kung Lee's is an openly religious, and he's a rock star of a MMA fighter. But he talked about how he was that everything he's a very Christian person, and everything that led to his success was because of his faith, right? And then you look at other people, and you don't have to pry to find these out, but you look at like people like Khabib, right, or Islam or Muhammad Ali. These people are openly religious, and their faith kind of definitely, there's no arguing that their faith plays a role in their success, and that seeing that repeatedly happen was always was something that I always took note of. But
Great points, Matthew. Those are some really, really insightful points you make. Really interesting aspects with those great fighters also, and no doubt about it. And I put out there, whatever somebody's faith is, that is very personal and very beautiful to that individual, and nobody has the right to ever try to take it away from them or try to diminish it. It's such a integral part of somebody's life. And even somebody who is an atheist, even somebody who refutes in the ontological argument the existence of God and refutes the existence of God, even an atheist has faith in science and their belief in what modern day science is saying, because science is moving ever so rapidly that it's hard to put your finger on where science really stands. And I think the beauty of science and the magic of it is that there's never really a there's never one finite answer. There is in laws, when we talk about laws of motion and gravity and so forth. But when we think about questions as to how we deal with such things such as illness, things such as social issues, or whatever the aspect is, this requires complex thinking, and it's a big question. Take me away.
Yeah, it's one of those things that no one has the answer to. So anytime people bring up religion and they try to come off as if they know absolutely that their religion is right, or like you said, if they're an atheist and they know absolutely that there's no religion, there's it's one of those things that no one can have the answer to. So anytime people come off and have all this hate about them because someone's a different religion from them, or that they're religious or that they're not religious, it's one of those areas where you don't have the answer. So anytime people come so charged, it's just something that they can't necessarily know, right?
Yes,
So
and I didn't mean to cut you off, Maddie. And it's the idea that they have the answer for themselves, and then just have to respect everybody's belief in their own vision. And that's a huge part of it, because, and I was going to finalize by saying that even the atheist has to have that faith. So just to sort of bring it full circle with that convo I was getting into, I don't want to digress too deep, but it's I've taken classes and I've lectured classes in the history of religions, and one thing that every religion has in common is exactly what you said: faith in something, whatever it may be. And as I made that point, this goes all directions, because faith can supersede the notion of an aspect of the supernatural, if I could say, the divine. This can be something that goes into a faith-based, more of a philosophical set of tenets that one would see in Buddhism or Confucianism. I apologize. Take me away, Maddie.
Sorry about this. I think that, and I'm trying to word this perfectly, I think that actions speak louder than words, right? And that's a common sentiment. But so often you get people who are, again, you can zoom out of religion with this. You can talk about any opinion, anything, where they think a certain way and they're so willing to give so many words about the way that they think, what their beliefs are, what anything is, what kind of person they are, anything. They'll give all these words about it, but their actions don't show, right? So I was always taught that actions speak louder than words. So whether you're a religious person or whatever belief you have, whether it's as big as religion or as small as, you know, a small, simple belief, you don't necessarily need to be saying it all the time, but you should always be showing it. So if you're the type of
That's a great
person,
point.
yeah, you're the type of person who believes in something, believes in a core set of principles, you should be living them. You shouldn't necessarily always be saying them.
That's a great point. Say it. Don't just talk about it. Do it, and that takes practice. So please, everybody that's listening in, to really understand the depths of one's religion. As I was somebody who was raised Catholic in New York, and Roman Catholic, and so I actually did take classes, religion classes after schools, and made confirmation, my communion first, and then confirmation. Did all of that, and yet there's still so much that I did not know. So that's why I say, somebody, whatever your background is, whatever your belief system is, religious belief or spiritual belief system, that's why, just know it takes time to learn about the nuances and all of the incredibly beautiful aspects to it, because there's inspiration that one draws from faith. And that's the point here, that faith brings about inspiration. And that inspiration can drive, and not to say just faith, because as we mentioned, faith or faith in oneself, maybe not faith in a deity or any aspect of God or gods.
They all overlap too, right? They can
Yeah.
all be very overlapping.
Yeah, exactly. And just believing in oneself, inspiration is derived from that. And it's sort of like a what are those called? Something that recharges itself, like a generator. It just keeps on feeding itself. It's that cycle of energy. The more that we believe, the more that it comes to us, and the more that we feel inspiration. And then when we act upon it, that's when we see it manifest around us. It's not until we act upon it. We can think about it all day. It will not come to fruition until we put that work in. And that's what you talk about in TKO to 4.0. But Matthew, before I go back to the book, let me finalize. Religious question over and spiritual question over. I ask every guest on our show. Last question that I asked every guest, and I ask every guest, and please, no, you do not have to go deep on this, but I always ask it. Are you a political person? Does that tie into any of your success or what your perspective is?
Very loaded question. I think depending on how you define political, I think that, everyone has their own values. I'm not someone who is so I like to think I'm not someone who's so tucked into their own values they're not able to go out and see others. I think that I remember hearing, I had a friend of mine who recommended me to go watch this TED Talk, and it was called Extreme Empathy. No, I'm sorry. Radical Empathy, I believe it was called.
I may have seen this.
It's
familiar.
very,
it's familiar.
Very good, very good. I believe, and I might be getting the name wrong. It was, anyways, Radical Empathy, I believe it was called. And it talks about how important it is to put yourselves in other people's shoes, right? And how most issues and your communication with people in general can get strengthened and improved by just this extreme radical empathy, right? By not worrying about your own self as much, but really trying to understand other people's point of view. And And I guess that would be my answer if that helps.
Yeah, that's Matthew. That's perfect. And going back into the book, and that's why I asked those questions of every guest. Thank you for taking those questions, mega. And so, back to the book. I actually have a piece I'd like to read here, which I thought was brilliant. Now, this is the sine wave of life. I'm just going to pop it up into
Oh,
the
yes.
old. Let's see here.
Yes, the graph, right? And it talks about, so there's a math function, right? And it's this wave that if it goes up to +1, it can go down to -1, right? And if it goes down to -2, it has the ability to go all the way up to +2. And the whole concept is, if you go down to a certain level, so if you go down by 2 points, let's say, you have the ability to go up to 2 points. The whole concept is, in life, you're going to get met with adversity. You're going to get met with tough times. You're going to get met with, just tough breaks. And the whole concept is, be willing to ride that wave, right? When things knock you down and everything goes wrong, you go down to that, -10, so to speak. You have to be willing to ride that wave back up, to understand that you went through all this stuff that the average person isn't going through or didn't go through. Now you have the potential to go all the way up to +10. I know that's a weird way of saying it. I hope you're able to visualize what I'm saying.
100%. And that graph did a great job of that also. And that was Professor DeLeon that brought that to your attention, I believe.
Yeah, this is his teaching originally.
So cool.
Yeah, it's something that he talked about originally, and again, not during class, but this is one of his own beliefs, and I loved it, and it clicked for me so well, and I realized there's an old song too. What's that song? If you're going through hell, keep on going.
Oh gosh, which song is that?
I think I forgot who sings it. The whole concept is,
yes,
like, don't dwell in that like a low area, and realize the potential and the opportunity you have to go to whole new heights, right? And you look at, again, a lot of these stories are very sensitive to people, so I don't necessarily want to be sharing them. But you look at the people you respect, whether they be fighters or anyone. Look into business professionals. Just go look, anyone you respect, look at their life. You'll realize that it wasn't all sunshine and roses. You might look at them and see everything going well, but they probably went through a lot of really tough things. Look at Dan Gable, right? I don't know him personally, but his life story is just wild. It wasn't all just winning at wrestling. A lot of, like, you look at the things that happened in his personal life. It's just, I'll leave the viewer to go and look those things up. You look at, anyone, whether it be, Dan Gable, Daniel Cormier, Ken DeLeon, and anyone who you respect their where their life's at now, go dig a little deeper. See if you can find, in my opinion, you almost always find the fact that they went through really tough experiences, and they always come out the other side much better for them.
Matthew, that reminds me of the quote I would always mention this quote. It takes, and I forget who says it, but it's been said, it takes 10 to 15 years to become an overnight success. So this doesn't happen overnight. All these people you're mentioning, they're putting years of hard work into their craft. And then they get those breaks after all of those hardships. They get those breaks and they capitalize, which is a great quote that I put out there also. It goes as a definition. I apologize. A formula for success: opportunity plus preparedness equals success. Opportunity plus preparedness, meaning opportunities out there mixed with that individual being prepared to show what they want to do. Like you were prepared to go into Professor DeLeon's office and say, all right, this is what I'll do, yada, yada. That is what makes successful people. And that's a huge aspect. And I just wanted to put that out. That's a huge aspect that I take away from your book also.
And nothing's owed to you, right? There's gonna be a lot of no's where you did everything right, but you're gonna get a lot of no's, right? But once you get those yeses, those yeses are worth a lot, right? You were talking, and I don't know what it was, but you made me remember the story, and I think you'd like it. It was one. Oh my gosh, it's. I heard it in Arabic, so I'm gonna try to translate a little bit. But you'd like this a lot. And one the stories the stories one I heard growing up, and I loved it. And it's about the importance of learning from others, right? Because you're gonna have to go through your own tough times, but it's always nice to learn lessons from others. So the story starts off.
That's right.
It starts off in like this small village, right? 1,000, 2,000 years ago, in like the Middle East, and this village was conquered by this new um, group, this new empire. They go into this village, they conquer it. Like, and this is very common, right? They conquer the village, and they say, "We now are the new empire here. We own this village. We run this village, right?" So the new kind of ruler, so to speak, puts out a list of laws. And the first thing he does when he gets there says, every old person needs to, needs to get slaughtered, right? So he wants to get rid of all the old people. So of course, he sends his army, and they get rid of all the old people. But one of the villagers, one of the residents, really likes his mother and father. And his mother and father are getting older, right? And he has his own kids. So he goes, you know what? I want to take care of my mother and father. So he takes them into this cave outside the city limits, outside the city. It was a nice walk, puts in the cave, gives them a little shelter, says, I'll come out, I'll give you food and water every day till this, stuff blows over. Once this new emperor and army leave, I'll come back and everything will be okay, right? So, he does that, and he starts getting him water, and then takes care of him for a week. Well, a week later, the emperor goes out once all the old people are gone, and says, he wants to raise taxes. He wants to, get all this money, take all these resources from the villagers, and he knows he can't just, say I'm gonna do this, or else they'll, kind of riot and stuff. So what he says, he puts out a challenge. He says, I want a chain, like a chain, right? A big chain made out of sand. You only sand and nothing else. If you can make a chain out of sand, you'll win. We'll give you riches, and we'll leave. But if you can't make a chain out of sand, we're gonna take all these resources, and we're gonna take your men and women to fight in the army, and all this, right? All this bad stuff. So all the men and women in this town start going to work. How are they gonna make a chain out of sand? It's an impossible task. So the son no longer has time to take food to his father and mother. He starts sending his child, so the grandchild, right, of the father and mother, to go get them food and water. So the child makes this long walk out every day, brings them food and water. And the grandma and grandfather go, ask the kid, he goes, I appreciate you bringing us food. Where's my child? I want to see, my child. And the kid goes, he's very busy, right? So he kind of hushes him away and goes back. For the next month, same thing happens. They get food. The son, the adult, isn't going to see his parents anymore, and the parents are getting lonely. So this happens for months. And one day, the grandfather insists. He says, "I need to see my son. You go tell your father there's a big emergency, and you send him to come tomorrow." So the next day, the son goes and brings his mother and father water and food. And he goes, "What's this big emergency? I'm working extremely hard to solve this problem, to make a chain out of sand. I'm working very hard to solve this problem." And his father just starts laughing. And he goes, "That's why you're not seeing me? What's the problem?" And the son goes, "I don't have time for this. I don't have time to talk to you. I have to go back and work." And the son goes, "You made this whole walk, flatter me, tell me the problem." So the son goes and tells them the story about how the ruler said that there has to be a chain made out of sand and nothing else. You can't use water, you can't use cement, you can't use anything else. You have to use dry sand. It's an impossible task. And the father just continues laughing. And he goes, "Why are you laughing? This is not funny. People are dying, everything's going wrong." And the kid starts walking away. And the father goes, "Don't you want the answer?" The kid stops. He goes, "What do you mean the answer, right? You can't do this. There's no way you know the answer. I've been working on this for months. You don't know the answer in 2 minutes, right?" So the kid goes, "Okay, what's the answer?" And the old man laughs and goes, "Well, it's obvious. You tell the emperor you can do it." And the kid goes, well, what do I do then? The old man says, when the emperor calls you in, tell them that you can do it. All you want is a small example of what kind of chain. Do you want a small chain, a big chain, square rings, big circle rings? That way, you can make it. Ask him to provide a small example and he'll copy the rest. And the kid, like the adult goes and does that. And the emperor knows it's an impossible task. He can't do it. So he's in a situation where he has to either look wrong or give them let them be free. And that story always kind of made me laugh. The whole
That's
concept.
wild. That's great. That's
Yeah,
great. So, it's interesting because, it speaks to a lot of different aspects of, what we can learn from, basic ideas of even just questioning, seeking out answers, living vicariously through others, learning from others, humbling ourselves to recognize what you put very well in your book, talking about ego and how the ego becomes a barrier. It's like a double-edged sword. It lets us feel as though we can accomplish things. Your ego says you can do this, you can do this. But when it goes unchecked, it says you're the only one good at this. There's no one better than you, which could be good in a way, no doubt about it, when you are on task at accomplishing something, but not taking any ideas into consideration at all becomes an impediment for people's growth. And that's one aspect that ego really, has a huge impact in the way that we feel in our life and the way we derive that inspiration. How much ego goes into my everyday life? Am I somebody who wants the world to conspire to my beliefs, to my thought process, to the way I see the world? And if they do not see it the way I see it, am I somebody who then has my ego hurt? And am I, defensive, yada, yada? Or am I somebody that says, okay, I don't know everything. Nobody on this planet knows everything. We all have something to learn from one another. That's a huge aspect. The beauty of difference, the beauty of diversity is that we all have the ability to learn from one another. The beautiful aspects of who we are uniquely. That's one of the coolest things. And that's what I believe becomes a huge aspect of inspiration, knowing that we're all part. Going back to your analogy of the chain, we're all part of the chain, that sand. We're all different morsels of sand on this big beach they call life. And we're all really unique in the way that we position ourselves. And we're all part of something. We're not so separate. So I want everybody to feel connected. If you ever felt as though you're alone, if you ever felt as though you don't have anybody who has dealt with what you're dealing with, or anybody who has a perspective that could help you, please know there are incredible people out there who have lived through a multitude of lives, if I could say. They've seen many different paths in their life, and that, I want you all to know, becomes a huge aspect of feeling connected, because connectedness is one way that we stay away from that feeling of sadness, that feeling of melancholiness, that feeling of depression.
What's that? There's a book I read in high school, Into the Wild. You ever read
Uh,
that?
I'll tell you, let me tell you a quick story. John Krakauer, I don't know John Krakauer, great book. He's who wrote the book. I worked with a great teacher. He was from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And he was, this is when I worked in the Bronx in New York. And it's going back decades. And he gave me the book on his last day of work. And he said, you got to read this. And this one just came out about 2006. It was. And it just absolutely blew my mind. And then the movie was an incredible movie with Emile Hirsch, and I think it was directed by Sean Penn. But what a movie! Also, just the different locations they were at, the really beautiful scenes. Like if you like scenery, anybody that likes to watch National Geographic stuff, this is really cool like that. But I know that book, Matthew. So that's a little bit of how I got to know that book. And that was in 06 for me when I was put onto that.
Yeah, 'cause it's the quote, happiness is only real when shared,
When it's
right?
shared. Yeah.
You can, I think that I always try to encourage kids, right? Whether it's the kids I coach, um, my point of view, the way I wrestle, the way I coach, it's my own, and it's not gonna work for everyone. And there's things that I don't know to teach, right? And then so I always encourage them, go get coached by as many different coaches as possible. Go listen to, the coach of Gilroy, the coach of Los Gatos, the coach
That's
of,
right.
Evergreen. Go listen to all of them because they
That's
all
a
have
great
things.
teaching characteristic you have. That's a great skill set that you're able to do that.
Yeah, but I don't know. The point I'm trying to the reason I bring that up is I think that in a general sense, people should just be open to learning from different people because then I forget where I was going with that, but it was just
But yeah, no, and I think I jumped in there when you were talking about the point you were making, and really, it is that notion. It's the idea that we have that capability of teaching so much. If there's something we don't know, it's okay to say, I'm not too sure about this.
yeah,
Learn from somebody else, and that is a great skill set, because there are teachers that will, their ego will get in the way and say, oh, I can't say that. I have to be the sage on the stage. I have to be the end all be all of knowledge, rather than the guide on the side. The guide on the side plays a huge role in the success of others. And that becomes a major focal point. Like you were saying, it's important to be able to say, I don't know it all, just like me as well, Matthew. I don't know it all. But yeah, there's a lot that I know in what I teach, but I still don't know it all. And I still learn every day. And I'm always reading and learning different perspectives, just as you're doing.
and people have access to so many people nowadays, right? With your phone, you have access to so many people, from the connections you make on, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and all these, things that people are on nowadays. But I feel like a lot of times we make those connections, we don't use them. Where you're connected to, thousands of people, but you don't talk to your own uncles and all, like your own grandma and grandpa, right? Your own family. That I just think it's important to use all of them. Make sure you have, the connections you have. Make sure you're going out and learning from them. You have so much experience and knowledge that's around you from your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, the people who've gone through life before you. Go learn what they have to teach, right? And then you have the next layer, right? Your family, your aunties, your uncles, your mentors, your teachers, your neighbors. Go on that level, right? Learn what they have to teach because everyone has something to teach, something that they're good at. Don't necessarily think that everything someone says is right. There's that old Marcus Aurelius quote: "The opinion of a thousand people who are untrained in a subject is worthless." So just because people are saying it, if they don't know the subject, don't listen to that.
I'm looking at your book here because there was a great quote, which I just want to put out there. You put at the end, page 115 by John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them, which is what you were just saying earlier as well.
Yeah,
Live what it is that you want to be. Don't just speak it, but be it.
in fighting, it's really easy to see, right? If you can get the wrestling of Khabib Nurmagomedov, the striking of
Anderson Silva.
and so if you can get all the best parts, you're gonna be amazing, right? Um, in life, it's the same way. In school, it's the same way. If you can just get the best parts of the people around you, you're gonna be an amazing, amazing person. You want to take the best parts and leave the not so good parts from each person, right? So if you have something, if your father has something amazing to teach you, right? Or your mother has something amazing to teach you about character, right? About integrity. A lot of people have such, great role models of integrity by their parents. But if your parent also, smokes cigarettes, maybe you want to take the, integrity and learn from that, but maybe you don't want to learn the negative part about smoking. Or these are just small examples, and I think most parents would agree. If they want their children, the people around them, to learn the best things, and then realize things that aren't good that you want to not learn, and
That's right. And Matthew, it's so important to realize that, all of this that we're talking about really is encompassed in your book, TKA to 4.0. So, episode 154, ladies and gentlemen, on the Subjective Perspective Show here at beawoke.com/TSP. We want you to go get this book. So, Matthew, really quickly, well, not really quickly, though, I'm going to come up. I'll come along our closure of our interview momentarily. I'll give you a couple other big questions, as we've been on rocking and rolling for about an hour and a half or so. And I'm very mindful of your time. And I thank you so much for sharing your time for this featured episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Matthew Hamamjy, author, entrepreneur, business-minded, visionary who gets the job done. Matthew Hamamjy, MBA. And Matt, so I apologize. I was gonna finalize just quickly also before I go into my last couple questions that I ask everybody. Where can people find your book? Where can they get their hands on TKO to let me rephrase that. TKO to 4.0.
Yeah, it's available in a lot of countries, the US, Canada, Mexico, India, and plenty others. Easiest way probably be through Amazon. Just type in TKO to 4.0. The subtitle is A Fighter's Approach to Life, School, and Overall Success. You'll see the book. I'm Matthew Hamamjy. You can find me. I'm always open. If any students, especially any high school, college age people, have questions about optimizing their academic journeys, they can find me on social media, through LinkedIn, through Instagram. My last name's my username typically just Hamamjy, HAMAMJY. And I'm always excited to help anyone who has questions.
I just want to say, anybody who's interested in connecting with Matthew, take him up on it. Just in the same regard as how he was able to open up doors, as you just heard in the story about a half hour or so ago. We encourage you to do the same. Open up those doors. Get out there. Believe in yourself. And you got to realize that I'm somebody who's been speaking professionally for 2 decades. And when I first started, everything I'm saying to you all is what I needed to see in myself. I didn't see it in myself. I didn't see that I had the capability, like Matthew understands, to reach out to people and for people to see interest in me as well. See, that took time, but with practice, going full circle to what Matthew was saying earlier, and experience. Let time be something that you use to your advantage. Learn every day from each moment. Eat, breathe, sleep, and keep on repeat. Do that every day, focused on a vision of what you want to do. And I guarantee you, you're going to get there. Now, how long it takes, that's a different story. I'm not somebody who can tell you when the timeline is, but I could tell you those are the variables. Those are the major elements to the success of everybody that I've come across. And by listening back to all of our past episodes, Matthew, our audience will hear this echoed in past episodes with individuals who have accomplished incredible things, such as you are. And I just want to say that is the mind of somebody who is great. And I also say kindness is the mark of a great individual. And you are very kind. You're a good-hearted person, always have been. And I am so excited for you, Matthew. At 22 years young, what a great job you're doing. Continue on turning those dreams into your reality, because you are the model for how to do it. You're doing it. You've been doing it. And it's inspiring to me.
One thing we want to say, first of all, it's an honor being on here. I appreciate it. Anytime we're able to speak, but anytime, the book coming out, TKO to 4.0.
Oh yeah, let's see it.
All right, here. TKO to 4.0, A Fighter's Approach to Life, School, and Overall Success. Right there. But
that's a great cover. I have my PDF version, So
I'll
I've read my PDF.
do the book. I'll send you the book as well.
Hey, if you could autograph it,
Of course.
whatever the cost is, I will pay that.
Oh, nothing for you. But what I was gonna say was you were talking about you were talking a minute ago, and it made me think. One thing I've noticed that in almost everyone I respect, they have this one trait, and the best way I could say it is they'd rather choke on greatness than starve on mediocrity. So most the people I really look up to are people who are willing to take those swings and to reach for great heights and even if they stumble and fall, they stumble and fall somewhere somewhere great, right? Even in a failure comes a second success, right?
There's a lot of names that are in this book, and I don't want to. And we've hit a couple names already. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go get this book, TKO to 4.0, a fighter's
approach to life,
school, and overall success. This is an absolutely inspiring read, and one that I think it's about 130 pages or so. No.
Yeah, goal is to keep it less than 150 pages because who's going to read it, right? High school and college age kids they're the youth, right? They're the ones that have the potential for the most. They have their whole life ahead of them, right? They have all this potential, and the worst thing it's a Bronx Tale. You ever get to that movie?
I know exactly where you're going.
Worst thing in life is
collateral. I know exactly which way you go with this.
Exactly.
All right, see, I know. See,
I'm trying to hit on all the notes. Wasted potential. So I figured I have 150 pages to get a high school kid's attention and to instill foundational principles that can help change and put their life on a path towards success. And that's the goal, right? 150 really easy to digestible pages. So if you're an uncle, auntie, mom, dad, brother, sister, towards anyone who you think needs this book, whether they have, low grades, they need to really bump those grades up, or if they're at that A level and need the little extra push to get towards that A plus, I think these principles are for them.
I think I concur. I concur highly. Matthew, Bronx Tale, one of my favorite movies, by the way. I won't get into it, but I was trying out for a television show back in 2012, and I had to remember a scene. The scene I remembered to show the casting crew, the director, and all that good stuff, was the scene from A Bronx Tale when he goes around the car and unlocks the
door.
Yeah, the door. Yeah, if she unlocked the door, that meant that she cared about him and stuff. So it was cool. So one of my favorite movies all time. So I think it's a great quote. The worst thing in life is wasted talent. Everybody has to hear that. You all have value. Every one of you listening to this or watching this. What I want you to do is believe in yourself, get a good night's sleep, get up tomorrow like the warrior you are, and make it happen. Little step by little step. And those little steps become big steps that become miles, that become years of journeys that just bring you to unimaginable places.
You said this earlier. I almost wanted to add on. There's that Bruce Lee quote, I believe. The journey of 1,000 miles or journey of 100 miles starts with a single step.
100%.
And
I'm just watching Enter the Dragon.
Oh yeah, great. Oh my God, Bruce Lee is just amazing. Love him.
Incredible. All these names we're dropping, just in case anybody's not really so aware. I mean, these are pretty big names. A couple of them, some aren't, and that's why this is so important.
Personally, Bruce Lee is just a popular name.
Yeah. Gosh, I try to catch old footage on YouTube of him, like in the 70s, and absolutely incredible. I won't get into so much Bruce Lee right now, but your book really emanates from that idea of what it is to internalize those values, to live by those different aspects that you write about each chapter, those skill sets, those real lifelong attributes that take years to hone in on. And your book really encapsulates them in a way that's easy to grasp and fun as well. So thank you for writing this book, Matt. It's a great book, and I'm honored to have been a part of it, to have been able to speak to you about it, and just want to say, you got to, like I've said in the past, get yourself a even nicer pair of sunglasses because your future is more bright than you could even imagine.
Oh,
So
you're on.
I get cheesy as I get older, as time goes on here. Listen, Matthew, two questions, really three, but two questions I ask everybody. Now, remember, I mentioned I start out with those simple questions, then we go a little more in depth into the content of the nuances of what we're getting into. Then I bring it back to a nice, simple place, a place where, you know, people who will read Matthew Hamamjy, people who will become fans, who are fans already, students of yours, people that are friends, family, and people that are being put onto you brand new from hearing you here. You know, I want these to really, resonate with them so they can say to themselves, well, you know what? I got that same thing in me. Like I feel that way also. Hey, you know what? I feel like that. That means maybe I could do what that person did. Just those little doses of inspiration. That's why I ask these of every guest that's been on our show. Matthew, first of the last two questions, and then I do a cool little word association piece, which takes about 2 minutes or so. It's fun. I just started doing it a couple episodes ago, and I've had some good feedback on it. So you're going to be maybe our fourth of the word association guests. This question can go either way with this, Maddie. Okay, you can either say one of the subjects or both of the subjects you can speak on. Question I'm about to ask: what is, if any, favorite book and author and or movie director? So you can take either one or both of them.
Oh, that is a really good one. I love so many of both. I'll be
I
honest.
know. Top three, sorta.
Say that again.
Top three, sorta, maybe, or top two.
Oh man. I'll go with the cheese. I'll go with the easy one. I think you know what? I'll go with a good one actually. Book, Psycho Cybernetics. That's one that I think is so good. I think it doesn't get there's, Think and Grow Rich and all those that get a lot of love. Um, Psycho Cybernetics is the one I'm gonna go with. Google Psycho Cybernetics. It was written 1970s ish. Last name is Max something. I should have. I'm blanking on it a little bit.
No, Psycho Cybernetics. Perfect.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty
Cool.
cool.
I'm checking it out now. Very, very cool. I got to check this out, man. I got to see what this is all about.
You 100% should. And then movie. Oh my gosh. I have 30. The one I probably quote most. I quote a lot of movies. One I probably quote most is Oh man, I'll give you two. I'll give you maybe three. I like Scent of a Woman, which is with,
Pacino.
of course. I like
Old friend of mine, his brother was an extra in that movie. You could see him like in like one of the scenes. It was like a big deal back in like 1989 or 90 or so.
gosh, what a great one. I like what was I gonna say? Good Will Hunting. Of course, Sound of Music.
One of my favorite. Oh, Sound of Music, amazing. Goodwill Hunting, one of my top three, no doubt.
Yeah, I'll just keep listening if you give me time. But I got
Oh, listen, incredible movies, every one of them. Thank you for sharing. Got me going now. Lisa TSP and myself gonna have some movie night tonight. Gonna get some din din tonight. Gonna eat good. Hey, listen.
tell her
And
she's awesome person.
she's right back behind. Hun, Matthew sends his best and says hi. I know you can't hear in the headphones. I don't know if you're able to. Can you hear it on your side? Maddie,
Oh,
can you? Okay, could you hear her? She says hello. Matthew, yeah, listen. And Lisa, even beforehand says, really looking forward to having you on. We've known you for many years now. All right. So this is, thank you, brother. Thank you. Listen, I know it's like 4:40, almost been off almost 2 hours. So let me get you cruising here. But for everybody who's tuned in, episode 154. Yes, 154 of the Subjective Perspective Show. Since August 2013, we've been doing this. We're lucky to guest feature and honored our friend here at the show and incredibly brilliant author and entrepreneur, Matthew Hamamjy. Maddie, so last question before the word association. The most simple question I could think of as to subconsciously and consciously connect with an individual. So you can take this any direction you'd like. If you do have a favorite one of these, if you don't, if you have multiple, whatever direction you want to go. Final question of our interview is, what is your favorite color or colors and why?
Favorite color or colors? It's a tough one. I think colors are very emblematic, like the mood you're in. I find myself using red a lot. I use in my book. I personally wear a lot of blue. But again, I don't know. It's a tough one. Man.
Let me tell you, I've had many guests. This is probably one of the most basic questions, but there's so much that goes into it. Ain't it wild, right? Because it's hard to just pinpoint one. I understand that as well.
I'll go ahead and lock in. I'm going to lock in blue for my final answer.
Right on. And you just won. Final Jeopardy. You're in. Now, listen, Matthew. And it's cool. You can go through all of our past episodes and you could see and listen to who, what their favorite of colors are of each guest. As well, only one guest has never been asked that, or I asked the guest, but his phone was cutting out in England. Graham Hancock. He was on Joe Rogan's show a couple days prior, or 2 days prior, then on our show. This is back in 2013 now. And he was calling in, doing on like an early Sunday, early day, and just with the time difference. And he couldn't hear, and you could actually hear on the episode. He's like, I can't hear you. I'm like, Graham, it's okay. No worries, So that's the only person I have not gotten the response from, and I actually want to get Graham back on. I think it just made me think about working on getting him on now. Now listen, Matthew, just want to finalize this inspiring, informative, and just super cool interview with you. A word association game. I'm going to give you 4 words. Okay. First thing that comes to mind. Okay. First thing could be a couple words, but the first idea that comes to mind when you hear these. First word. Wrestling.
Hard work. Success is a habit.
I like that. Second word. Redwood forest, or I should say place.
Growth. Exponential growth or slow growth.
Very good. Very cool. Very cool. I was talking about the redwoods earlier, so that's why I wanted to bring that in.
They're not far from me. They're up in Santa Cruz. Beautiful.
Oh, goodness gracious. We used to live there, deep in the redwoods off a summit. Oh my gosh. Beautiful there. We got to get it there. Maybe next week we'll take a cruise out there. Next word, 2 more words. Family.
Most important. Number 1. Always there for you. Locked in. They're can't escape.
That's great. Yeah, this is cool. The word association. Check out the last couple.
I feel like I'm winning so far. So
you're doing well. You're doing very well with this. Final word. Writing.
Oh, brutal. Honest. I'll say that.
No fluff. Honesty. Nope. Getting into the thought process of people, giving them what they need to know to strive to be successful.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. It's one of those things where you can't you put something down it's what you believe in, right? So you can't, you got to make sure it's clear, right? There's no weaseling way out of it, which is, it's a very honest thing.
I think that's a great point you make. You made many great points throughout this last hour and 45 minutes. Matthew,
Honor.
can I give you the final moment if you like to leave the audience with any ideas, again, where they could find the book, and any last minute thoughts for episode 154 of the Subjective Perspective Show?
I'll just say it was an honor being on here. Always nice talking to you. I don't need an excuse, but the book coming out was a great opportunity. Like I said, book is out. It's called TKO to 4.0, A Fighter's Approach to Life, School, and Overall Success. I'm going to be pushing it out. I'm starting to use my social media more. So I'm not a very social media active person. So I'm starting to use Instagram especially. You can find me at Hamamjy. Last name is spelled out Hamamjy. Hamamjy. That's my last name. And yeah, I will. I'll leave it at that. Keep it simple.
Matthew, Hamamjy, those students of yours in wrestling are lucky to have you. This world's lucky to have you. And I can't wait to share with our audience the magnitude of success coming your way in the very near future, as you've already accomplished so much. Honored today, as this really was a joy for us here at the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 154 of the Subjective Perspective Show, guest featuring the one and only Matthew Hamamjy. Matthew, thank you so much for today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring us to a little closeout here, and you can stick on with me, and I'll close this out here, and we'll bring everybody into a little commercial break here. Ciao for now, everybody. Catch you all in a moment.